A question I get a lot is why China? And even though I can certainly give my own reasons for coming to China and then staying for more than 10 years, each individual person's reasons could be different. In today's video, I specifically asked Americans why China. A lot of people see America as the greatest country in the world, and everyone always talks about the American dream, and yet more and more Americans are moving to China. So let's see today why these Americans are choosing to live in China. Where are you from and when did you move to China?
大家好, my name is Noah Cartha and I'm an American who's been living in China for about 3.5 years.
Yo, this is Ben Cubbage. I'm an American from near Washington, D.C., and I have lived in China for about 12 years.
Hi, my name is Caitlin, and I grew up in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest in America. My first trip to China was over 10 years ago, but I currently live in Shenyang, and I moved here about 8 years ago.
What initially brought you to China?
In 2019, I made the decision that I wanted to move abroad for the long term, and I saw China as the best place to live, teach, and travel abroad. I love living abroad, especially in China, because I feel like every moment, every day of my life is an adventure. I remember when I first moved out here, and I just loved the experience of every day going to a different restaurant, not knowing what they're serving, not knowing what the menu says, but trying to navigate this new language and tasting different dishes that I've never tasted before.
My wife and I are travelers, and as we were married, we were kind of backpacking hippies. For our honeymoon, we hiked what's called the Pacific Crest Trail, or PCT. We hiked over 4,000 kilometers, 2,600 miles from the border of Mexico all the way up to the border of Canada, entirely through the states of California, Oregon, and Washington on the Pacific Crest Trail. That was our honeymoon, sleeping every night for 6 months in a tent, walking over 30 kilometers every day through the mountains. So we love walking, we love hiking, we love the mountains, we love traveling. And ultimately, we had a friend that lived here that had a travel business. He invited us to live here, to work with him, and the rest is history. 12 years later, we're still in Western China, still running travel trips, and still loving the remote outdoors.
My first trip to China was a study abroad trip for a program at Evergreen State University when I was studying for my undergraduate degree. I had only ever traveled to Europe before that, and I knew I wanted to go abroad again, but I didn't know where. One of my professors at that time suggested that I join the class program to travel to China for 3 weeks, and I decided to go. It changed my life completely, and it completely opened my mind up to new perspectives and a different way of living. I fell in love with China, and I always felt like I wanted to settle down here eventually.
Why did you choose the city that you're living in?
The city I'm currently living in, Ningbo, China. It's just south of Shanghai. I moved here because I was offered a great job at a prestigious international school here as a guidance counselor.
Why did we choose to live out in the middle of nowhere in Western China on the Tibetan Plateau? Why not live in a much more developed place? Our town doesn't even have a McDonald's or a Walmart, although of course we do have KFC and a few other fast food restaurants. But why would we live out here? Why would we choose to live out here? And the answer for us is simple, which is just the beauty that's around us here. Of course, I'm standing in the city, an apartment complex, but living at 2,300 meters, we have the opportunity to be on a high Tibetan mountain, 4,000 meters tall, in beautiful culture, totally away from people, in just an hour of driving. And so we live out here for the mountains, we live out here for the culture, we love meeting people, we love kind of the wild nomads that herd yaks at 4,000 meters, we love meeting these guys, herding these sheep and yaks, and it's a lot of fun for us to build relationships with them and then ultimately invite them into our travel business as well and say, hey, how can we build ecotourism into your community with these communities that have less opportunities than what you might find in Eastern China?
I have traveled to other cities in China, and I have always enjoyed visiting major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. However, I really feel drawn to Shenyang because of the sense of community, both between locals and foreigners. I met my husband here, and I've made friends who are Shenyang natives and foreigners from all around the world who are close friends for life. I never felt that sense of connection in another city I had traveled to before, and I think Shenyang offers a sense of home away from home.
Why did you choose to stay in China as long as you have?
I love living in China. I love the process of slowly growing to understand this vast place with this complex culture. And the longer I stay here, the more that I find that there are so many different kinds of cool places to explore here. In particular, I've fallen in love with China's ancient town scene, which are these mazes of alleys that blend old and new. But maybe the reason I love living in China the most is there is such a dynamic energy here. I mean, wherever you go to the park, you go to the local square, there are so many people that live here. There's so many people out and about. And I don't know, for me, there's something kind of comfortable about that. I feel like when I'm surrounded by so many people around me that I'm experiencing all the world has to offer in that moment.
Why have we chosen to stay for 12 years? A lot of people think we're crazy. We've been here for 12 years. We stayed here for 2 years of very severe COVID restrictions. And a lot of people say, why would you not live in your home country, or why would you not live in an easier place? And for us, the reason is really simple. We just really have roots here. We love living here. Our children have literally lived every single day of their lives, except for a few small family vacations in Western China. It's all they've ever known. They've eaten, and they know a lot more about Lanzhou Lamian or beef noodles or Chinese dumplings or things like that than they do about McDonald's or any Western restaurant. So this is what they've grown up with. This is our roots. This is the foundation of our family. And ultimately, we have registered businesses here, and we love living in China. Of course, there's culturally challenging elements, but overall it's been a lot of fun for us, and we enjoy the stimulation of living in a culture that is not American culture, which honestly find to be a little bit boring, and we're glad to be living in a new culture, and ultimately that's what's kept us here for 12 years.
I really fell in love with China all those years ago, and at that time I switched my undergraduate major to Chinese culture and history from business. I still feel the same way I did then about China, and I'm always continually impressed with how the people in China and the nation itself is always striving to improve. One of the things I am most grateful for about living in China is the higher education opportunities that China provides. I'm American, and a lot of higher education opportunities are hindered by student loan debt, despite your capabilities. In China, there are scholarship opportunities that not only cover the cost of your tuition, but also offer a living stipend so that your full focus can be on your studies. Because of these opportunities, I have been able to complete my master's degree, and I am currently in my 4th year of my PhD studies.
What were your biggest concerns before you came to China for the first time?
My greatest concerns when I moved to China were, number one, being able to find the right VPN to be able to watch American sports. And number two, being able to connect with like-minded people. But I'm happy to say that both ended up working out for me. I use YouTube TV to watch American sports events, but using Astral VPN combined with CyberGhost VPN, those two VPNs, I'm able to watch sports events from back home. And then for me, one of my greatest passions and what I like to connect with other people about is like spirituality and meditation. And I was really doubtful that I could find or create any kind of meditation group in the cities that I lived in China. But I actually recently made a video of the process I went through to form a meditation group here in the city that I live in Ningbo. And it's something that taught me that I think there are just so many people here in China that anyone has the ability to find or connect with like-minded people.
Honestly, when we moved to China in 2010, oh man, we were such young kids. Our biggest concerns were just, we just don't know how to do anything. We didn't speak any Chinese. I couldn't even say like please or thank you or go anywhere. And so our biggest concern moving to a new place is you just basically are starting out as babies. And everything is just a totally different system. Even just getting your mail or just any of those day-to-day things that would be super easy for us in America, suddenly we had to relearn how to do everything. And we, of course, we figured that out in the last 12 years, but that was definitely our biggest concern moving here.
My biggest concern when I came to China for the first time, more than 10 years ago, so this was a long time ago, was how I was going to stay in contact with my family and friends. At that time, WeChat wasn't an option yet, and internet access was more limited, especially if you were just traveling. I remember the easiest way of connecting was either through buying calling cards that you could call internationally through another phone, or you could use email whenever internet access was available. And everything is so different now. It's very convenient to stay in contact with loved ones, but it was more complicated back then.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your quality of life in China?
Personally, I would rate my quality of life in China as a 9 out of 10. I can take a cab anywhere across the city for just a handful of US dollars. My apartment is walking distance from a shopping mall where I can eat any kind of food pretty much from all around the world. On the weekends, I can take the high-speed train like 2 hours in any direction, and I can get to countless beautiful travel destinations for a pretty affordable cost. And even the school that I work at is really, really nice. They even have a skateboard park, which I have access to.
For us, I would say definitely a 9 out of 10. I mean, the quality of life is really, really high here. I mean, you can see these are pretty nice apartments, something like you'd probably see in Europe as far as, apartment style. Yeah, it's just modern. It's luxurious. China's the number 2 importer of luxury goods in the world. And so, yeah, I mean, we're certainly not lacking for any creature comforts. It's not like we're living in the jungles of India or Afghanistan or something. So it's very comfortable. It's very easy. And sometimes I'd say even more convenient, surprisingly, than America. We can order a taxi on our app. We can order all food. Everything is done basically through WeChat or through Didi or, these other Meituan or these other apps, which is super convenient. And sometimes I think even more convenient than America. And China has largely become a cashless society, which means everything is just on your phone. It's right there. It's convenient. So quality of life is really high. I mean, we do have coffee shops in our city. We do have all the modern conveniences. Sometimes it doesn't always work like the American system would. But as far as convenience and ease of living, I'd definitely give it a 9 out of 10. Of course, being in Western China, it's not quite as advanced as what you might see in Beijing or Shanghai, where you have huge communities of foreigners kind of living in one place in the French concession or things like that in Shanghai. But overall, it's a good quality of life. We're not lacking anything. It's very easy. It's very comfortable. And so we really like living here. And honestly, our American dollar can go a little bit further here than it would in other places of the world, especially in America, especially with the recession and things like that. So yeah, it's a little bit more secure for us as far as financial stability. The 1 US dollar is about 6 Chinese yuan. And so, yeah, our dollar goes a little further here. We can live further and we can do things that we probably wouldn't be able to do in America by living in China, which we really like. And we also have the opportunity to pioneer and explore places that very few foreigners have ever seen.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say my quality of life is probably an 8 or a 9. I really miss my family and friends, but I'm really happy here. I will always be grateful that China has offered me a safe, fulfilling, and rich life.
As you can see from real expats sharing real experiences in different cities across China, everyone has their own reasons for moving to and ultimately staying in China. It's easy to be manipulated by how the media portrays China, and I certainly at one point was one of those being manipulated and simply not knowing any better. But as you can see, China is a great country to live in, no matter how long the period of time may be. And at the end of the day, every adventure and experience in life is all about what you make of it and how open you are to adapting to different cultures, different food, and a different way of life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would like to thank everyone who collaborated on this video with me. Be sure to go and check out their channels, also linked in the description box down below. And if you are someone looking at videos about life in China and considering moving to China, I hope you found this video insightful. I remember 10 years ago trying to find information about what China is like and expat life in China, and it was pretty much non-existent. If you have any questions about moving to China, you can always reach out on Instagram or in my email, which is also linked in the description box. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you again next time. Each individual, how open you are to adapt, and it was pretty much non-existent, which is also linked in the description box.